Okay, so on today's episode of Straight Up, we have minister and author Lillian Daniel. One of her books is out. It's called When Spiritual But Not Religious Is Not Enough. She's also traveled to speak. And tell us some of the places that you've been to, actually.
Well, let's see. I spoke at the Festival of Homiletics. Oh, what's that? It's like a preaching festival in Denmark.
Okay.
That was really cool. And it was like 3 weeks before I was going, and then I emailed the woman. I'm like, you do know that I don't speak Danish. And she was like, oh, no, it's okay. We all speak English.
Ever had a conversation with you're a minister now.
Yes.
You were a minister at another church. Now you're a minister at a new church.
Yeah.
Congratulations, by the way. Like, I've never had a conversation with a female minister. What's it like? Like, is there backlash? Is it awkward?
Yeah. Well, I've never been a male minister, so I don't really know what that feels like, right?
Okay.
But it is that sense of like people are like, oh, wait, you're the minister, you know?
Okay.
You don't remind people of what they think a minister is going to be.
If you read her book, she talks about that a little bit.
Okay.
But you don't presume anything, right?
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know what it's like to be in the other position, you know?
Like, I guess, like, so what I'm getting at is a lot of the women I hear or are discriminated against in the workplace. Do you feel like you received that similar discrimination being in ministry as a lady?
I don't feel like I've been discriminated against. I've had great jobs and opportunities.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of friends who are just as smart and hardworking as me or better who haven't had those chances.
Okay.
So there's a lot of discrimination in the church. I mean, my particular path has been good, but
Okay.
and a lot of women quit, because they just get tired of it.
That's crazy.
They call it the stained glass ceiling.
The stained glass ceiling.
Yeah.
The stained glass
Who calls it
ceiling.
the stained glass ceiling?
Like the women clergy,
Oh, really?
it's
That's
the glass ceiling. Yeah.
Interesting.
And a lot of times women clergy are the associate minister, or it's presumed they want to work with children. So I was always like, I do not want to work with your children.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is. And in our churches, they can choose their own minister. So there's no kind of like affirmative action. Like, there's nobody who can say you're going to take a woman even if you don't want one. The congregation gets to choose. So in some ways, it's slow moving.
Gotcha. So yeah, you earned I got you.
Well, it helps being a rebel, too. I feel like you're a bit of a counter-culturalist when it comes to a lot of the way that things work.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what led to just apply to Yale. Just got in and I'm going to start like, that's a really prestigious school. Like, what made you just apply there, and what also made you kind of go in the direction of ministry?
Well, so actually, I applied to Yale Divinity School straight out of college, mostly so I could say I had something to do,
Right.
And then, but I wanted to be a minister, and then I went to the church and said I wanted to be a minister, and I got rejected. So they told me not to go to Yale. They said I had no business going to
Oh, man. Like Michael Jordan getting
Yeah.
cut from the basketball team just to come back as a champion.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
But I was devastated, but I took it seriously, and I went and worked for a couple years. And then I ended up going anyway to Yale Divinity School. And then I was accepted in the ministry in a different denomination.
Did they say no because you were a woman, or because they were just like, who is this person asking us to be a
Yeah,
minister?
no, they said that I was immature and a thrill seeker, and I had issues with authority.
Blasphemy. Jeez.
All of which was true.
So tell us about the punk rock band.
Okay, so I was in this punk rock band called Geek, and it was for a couple years, and I played the bass, and it was, I broke up the band to go to divinity school, and that was probably like the best I could have done for
So
the
you were
art
taking
world.
full responsibility for breaking this band up.
I broke the band up. So when I broke the band up, when I went to school, everyone had to kind of break up because we were in D.C., and we were part of the D.C. punk rock scene that was around this Discord Records. And if you're familiar with that, it was like Positive Force, straight edge,
Right. Okay.
And so when I was going to New Haven, that was it. But we had a tour, a summer tour where it was called the Wet Behind the Ears tour. And it was 3 bands, Geek, and then Seaweed from Seattle, and then Superchunk from North Carolina. And they're still a band.
Really?
Yeah, they're
All
like
classic names right there.
Those are all
Superchunk.
super like punk rock
Yeah,
names. If those were
yeah.
just on paper and I just read them, I had to guess a genre For sure.
Punk rock.
What were some of the bands that you enjoyed listening to growing up?
Well, I did not listen to that much punk rock music, even though I played in punk rock band. I like funk music. That's my favorite. Like I love Earth, Wind and Fire. That kind of thing.
I knew you had some.
There we go.
There we go.
But
Come
the
on.
bands that we were influenced by as a band was the big band was Fugazi with Ian MacKaye, and we once opened for them, and then we once opened for Sonic Youth.
Okay.
That was as kind of famous as we got.
So what do you think would have happened with the direction of your band if you didn't go to divinity school?
Well, Jenny Toomey, our singer, who's sort of was like the leader, she went on to form another band that was much more successful, so that was a good thing, and also has done some solo recording and stuff. And Derek Denkla is playing in a band now, and our drummers one of our drummers, Ivor Hansen, wrote a book about being a window washer in New York. That's kind of interesting.
Just kind of change gears here, going back to you growing up and choosing the path that you did.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say there was a series of events your whole life that led you to go to divinity school and do what you do, or do you think that was there just one particular thing that maybe just happened for you, or how would you describe your path as from where you started as a child to where you are now?
Well, I grew up overseas, and my dad was a journalist, so we would move to a different country every couple of years. So Japan, Thailand, India, the Philippines, Hong Kong, London.
Jealous already.
Yeah, well, and it was a crazy life, but I didn't know any different. But the one thing that was the same was church. We went to Anglican churches, or Episcopal, they're called here. And so, you'd say the same prayers and sing the same songs, and it's very, sort of like this prayer book.
Right.
And I think it's, you don't need a degree in psychology to say, that was my stability. And I think I kind of was drawn toward the church for that reason.
Okay, so all of these world travels you had, but the consistency with the church kind of influenced you wanting to go into ministry.
Yeah, and my family was, pretty crazy, and so, church was a nice place.
Cool. Good crazy, I hope.
Yeah, well, sometimes, they're good people.
Yeah, we've all got that going on. Cool.
Yeah.
So you wanted to get into ministry, you decided to be in a band, you did your thing in a band for a little bit, you ended up going to divinity school in Yale. Okay, and tell us about what your experience was like at Yale.
Yale was great.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
but
too
so
naive.
it's funny, when I went to Yale, though, there was actually a movement to shut down the divinity school because the admission standards were so much lower than for the rest of the university.
Oh
So they
my
were
God.
if you were applying to law school, it's the best law school in the country,
Right.
and you were off the charts. And the div school, people had B averages and stuff, and they wanted to
Oh,
close
that's
it down.
so terrible.
Yeah.
I know.
Let's get
so,
We have to work really hard
That's
to
so
be
funny.
here, and they don't. Let's stop this stuff. Yeah,
Exactly, and they were
gotcha.
trying to shut it down. So then they
Yeah.
raised the standards a lot after I went there. And so later I was on the board, and they were like, oh, well, it's not like that low point in the early 90s when we were accepting just about anyone. And I was like, wait a second.
Did you ever?
I was one of those people you accepted.
Wait, 19...
Yeah, that's cool.
So then, did you ever experience or have friends where it's oh, hey, I'm Victor. Hey, I'm Lillian. Hey, I'm studying law. It's oh, I'm studying divinity. Oh, never
Yeah.
mind.
Studying
I have to go
divinity.
do
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
right
No,
now.
and they were often, or they were like, you can do that here? Nobody even knew about it. They were like, what? It's we were it was you said, oh, I'm studying in the
Yeah.
witch program.
Yeah.
So I have an interesting question, and all of my questions are always interesting.
They are.
No, they're not.
They are.
No, the hell they're
Very
not.
interesting
But
question,
this
yeah.
one probably is.
Do you go to church?
This question is for me.
Yeah.
That means no. If it's not an immediate yes, it means no.
Victor,
Or it
do you
means,
go to church?
Or it means on Christmas and Easter.
Do you go to church?
No.
Okay.
I do not go to church.
Why not?
But,
Why not?
why not?
Yeah.
I don't go to church because I feel like a lot of the things we are told are lies. I kind of feel like churches have incentives to do things that they shouldn't be doing.
It's a very skeptical mind.
I don't
person.
believe in the authenticity of it anymore. I do read my Bible. I do pray to the man upstairs, and I am God-fearing. And I respect
And he
everyone.
does believe it's a
Let me
man
give you
upstairs,
that.
too.
Let me give you that emoji. This
Yeah.
one like this.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Keep going.
that's just me.
So did you go to church growing up? and have an experience of church?
Yes, ma'am.
That turned you.
Yeah.
Don't call
Why
me
do you
that.
do that?
I can't. You're a lady with your accomplishments. I've got to. My mother would tear my ears if I didn't refer to you as ma'am. Hi, mom. But I don't know. It's just kind of learning things and just kind of seeing where things are like going. For example, the whole Christmas thing. You know what I'm saying?
Be honest though. Why don't you go to church on Sundays?
Because I don't believe in a lot of the stuff
Dude,
they're saying.
Riggs, I got you, Neil. This is why, and this is going to sound very
Yeah.
shocking, and people are going to get angry, but it's real. So not going to church, it's like the same thing in college. Like, you don't need to go to class to learn how to do what you want to learn how to do. You can go to church, you can go to class and make it beneficial, but it's like, if you're just like not that type of person, or you just want to learn by books and interacting with, or whatever the case is, it's no different. It's no
Okay,
different.
so like this is the thing. So first, I don't care if you go to church or not. Like I don't think
She really does. She's judging.
Yeah.
you deep
No,
down.
but I don't think you're going to burn in hell or anything like that. Like, I don't think Jesus is waiting there and saying, like, oh, Lillian, finally you're here. All your people have got it right, you know? And I believe God works through different religions, too. But what I think is that it's like anything. If you go deeper in it and you take it seriously, you get more from it. You know, so yes, you can learn in different ways, but for example, like a musical instrument, if you never practice, you know,
Right.
you're not going to have as deep a sense of it. And so
Yeah.
I choose to go deep into a particular religion, you know, Christianity and my own tradition, right? And I think the more you learn about Jesus, the more open-minded you're going to be, you know, because that's what Jesus was, right? And so, but I don't like it, you know, when people will say like, oh, you know, I see God in the sunset or nature. Like, okay, we all see God in the sunset and nature, right? Like, what do you want, a medal? But, you know, but there is some value to, like, community and a tradition and learning
absolutely.
about it, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
See, here's what I think. I think it's on a Sunday morning and it's boring. That is
Yeah,
that is what
that's true.
that is what I think.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
if you went to church and there were interesting sermons being preached, if you went to church and it was an engaging service, you'd probably be more likely to
Yeah.
wake up.
Well-
People-
Temporary and
Okay.
Tell us a little about the article that you have recently on your website. I was reading that earlier with the picture of the Ark and
Of Noah's Ark.
Of tired of apologizing for a church I don't belong
Yeah.
to. What do you do with weird stories like Noah's Ark?
yeah, what do you do with weird stories like Noah's Ark, right? And I think as a preacher, you acknowledge, like, this is not history, right? Like, this does not, and science is not the enemy of that story. That story is about really screwing up, and you get a second chance, you know, or disaster hitting, and then
Yeah.
trying to find meaning in it. But I think Noah's Ark is a funny story.
So you think it's all figurative, not literal? To
Right,
you.
it's not literal. I mean, who would think it's literal? You know, it's like, hello. And I think we preachers have to acknowledge that. You know, like
Do
there's
I?
smart people sitting there. Like,
Do I believe it's literal?
Yes,
I
you
don't know.
believe
I don't.
it's literal.
I think.
Yeah.
Are you going to tell me?
We've had many of conversations.
I'm
about
no.
this.
I mean, well.
or there might have been a boat with a bunch of animals.
Oh,
on
But
it.
Neil's also a
it-
conspiracy theorist, so
Yeah.
you know that makes it a
No,
little more
I'm
difficult to
not
communicate on a rational.
Really?
I think
Remember
so.
when I
You
told you
said
what NAMBLA was and you didn't believe me?
Oh my God, man!
Anyways, step out
They
of this
actually do have a
conversation
website,
between me
so
and you.
Nothing wrong about
okay,
that.
okay. How about this? All right. Maybe not to that
should
extent.
go to div
Obviously,
school,
maybe
man.
it's a
Yeah.
little exaggerated. I
Yeah.
agree with you there, but like, yeah. I mean, there are floods that happen. I mean,
Right.
it's not like crazy to believe that. Like,
No, I believe
But
that
the
there
Earth is
floods, but it's
4,000
like,
years old.
but can you redeem it? You know, can you
Gotcha,
say like
yeah,
God
yeah.
cared about you
Yeah.
during the flood, and not say like, well, what happened to the two dodos on the ark? Like, where? Are they now? You know, it's like,
yeah.
it's just not
I got
useful.
you. I got you.
Fell over.
Yeah,
Board.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't have dodos anymore.
Right, or like where'd they put the dinosaurs on the boat? Like, oh, okay, that's it. I don't believe in the Bible.
They forgot.
'Cause, like,
They were
yeah,
late. They were
didn't
late
account
to.
for dinosaurs. Like, no, like they never thought they were describing biology or history. They always knew that. It's like, but we're like, oh, I can't believe it. That's factually inaccurate. Like we're the first generation
Yeah.
to notice it. You know?
I know. Yeah, I know what you mean too.
It's okay.
Do you believe politics and religion should be separate? They shouldn't be intertwined?
I don't see how you can separate any of these things. Like, you know, religion is political, and political is about people, and people bring their faith. So I think Americans are sort of weirdly obsessed with this idea of Jefferson's wall that separates church and state. But like, how do you separate that within yourself? You know?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You ever had a political career? You ever thought about going into politics? No.
No. Other than church politics.
Okay.
Like, yeah. Real politics, that's for amateurs. Pastor, like, that's like real politics.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what would you say that the current state of preaching is in right now on the wider level?
Oh, gosh. Well, I hear you
It's
about...
kind of a
how
redundant
boring,
question.
How boring. I mean, I do get it. Like what recently I've been, not serving a church, and I've been going around to churches, and what passes for preaching is really can be pretty bad.
Would you say it's because of like the content, or people just don't speak well in front of others, or what do you think attributes to that?
Well, sometimes they'll be excellent speaker, but there is no content. There's no there. Kind of what you're describing, like prosperity gospel and all that nonsense. And then other times, somebody might have something to say, but they don't say it well. But mostly I've found it was people not saying anything. Like, they'll be like, oh, blah, blah, blah on the one hand, and then on the other hand. And they use all this crazy phony baloney language, like, let us now, and one might, and now
it's like
let us.
we're in the 21st century.
Yeah, who talks like that? Like, let us be about a spirit of prayer. Like, oh my gosh, like,
I
who
think
talks
of
like that?
like super old school 200 years ago type, log church without any air conditioning type stuff.
Right, but it's like one might suggest and one might argue. It's like,
what is going on here?
So
Just
see,
tell
you're
me what
telling
you
people
think.
to go back to church, and all they're gonna find are these crappy preachers.
Well, I mean, okay, so yeah, it's true. Like, well, if you heard...
What are you doing? What are you doing to us?
I know.
Go back to church. Oh my God, my eyes are bleeding right
But
now.
there's a lot of people doing intelligent, interesting stuff in churches.
Are there
Yes,
really?
I think so.
Are
There's
really?
there's people that are doing like intelligent, interesting stuff not in churches.
That's true, too.
Like
That's
us.
true,
That's
too.
what I was referring to.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you have a right to expect good preaching where you learn something and you get something out of it. And so if it's just like, give me money, or buy my new CD series or whatever, like, yeah.
Hey, check out my new mixtape.
Yeah. But yeah, some of it is pretty weird. And I did find, like, when I was going to church and not being the minister, I hate all that sitting and standing.
I get so confused. Am I standing? Am I sitting? And I'm looking around, and everyone else
Catholic
is looking
church
around.
especially.
Yeah, and you don't know what you're doing when.
And then,
like, what
wait, are the
page
words in
you're
the
on,
book
and
this time? Oh, they're not in the book this time. Okay. Oh, all
No,
right,
it's the
well.
other book. It's the other book that's
Oh,
under
it's the
the
other.
page.
Oh, no, it's in the pamphlet that they gave you.
Yeah,
It's in the
yeah,
pamphlet that they
place.
gave you.
It's like
Yeah.
you're onto
It's
something
like,
else.
what is
and it's
going
like-
on?
Yeah, and also, like, in some churches, there's just so much talking. Like, now we're going to, like, there's, like, different ministers, and they're like, now we're going to tell you that we're going to do this thing. Now we're going to pray about it. Now we're going to talk about the prayer we just did. Now we're going to explain it again. Now somebody else is going to get up and give a mini sermon. Now it's like, and you're just like, could everybody just shut up?
At least though on Christmas, it's like actually, it's like entertain. Like there's bells and there's singing and there's candles.
Fire.
Like give me some of that
Yeah.
fire.
No, I think in a lot of churches there's too many words. And like Christmas Eve, people love it because there's stuff other than the words.
Remove the words,
Yeah.
just throw in a DVD. You know?
Aww.
God, Victor.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so you're a current pastor.
Yeah.
You'll be going to a new church in
Yeah.
February. You're a former pastor.
Yes.
Do either of you guys have healing powers?
Every day through their words
Seriously.
and prayer.
I mean, when you guys see pastors, like you two Ricks, like when you guys see pastors, like and you see like this theatrical, like I'm gonna heal you type stuff, and he couldn't walk for such and such time. I touched his knee, now he's walking fine. Like when you guys see all that stuff, like do you guys just sit back and kind of laugh? Like
No, I think if you truly have the ability to do that, I wouldn't make a show of it. I would just do it a very humble.
Yeah, I would
way.
like go to medical school if I had that.
I think it's all BS when I see that happening.
yeah.
Like when I see
Scalpel, and then just kind of like touch him. All right,
Yeah.
this surgery's
No,
done.
I'm very
Magnetic
skeptical of
arms.
it, but I do think like God has healing powers in the world, and I've had times where I've witnessed people who've had healings that you can't explain. I don't think I caused it, and I don't think they caused it either. But I've also, prayed with people and watched something happen. Like, and you can't explain that. That's not about you having a healing power, but I think there's a lot more going on in the world than just what we experience.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
My midichlorian count is pretty high. So I think that I have the power to heal.
I'm sure if
Rick's
anyone
making
does,
a
it'd
joke.
be this guy to my left.
Midichlorian.
Oh, man.
That's really funny.
It's pretty cool.
How do you decide your topics for your various
Yeah.
books.
What I often do is just I do a ton of writing, and then I step back from it and I say, oh, there's the topic. Like so this tired of apologizing thing keeps coming up.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like I sit down and say that's what I'm going to write about. It's more like I look at what I have.
Experiential.
Yeah. So, you know, like it could also be like stories about like my dead parents and cats would be another title possibly.
Also very funny.
But yeah,
I've
like,
heard somebody refer their parents. Oh, yeah, my dead parents.
My dead parents
my
and my
late
cats.
parents or my parents who've passed.
that's a lot of my writing is people says stories about like your dead parents and your pets. Like you got to be honest. But like nobody wants to publish that book. Stories
Why?
about my
'Cause
dead
it's
parents
not-
and my cats.
Because,
Doesn't sound very like intellectual or
Gotcha. Yeah, it's not.
but it's real. It's real. You know.
it's straight up.
It's nice. Perfect.
Man.
Straight up.
Okay,
we can end on that.
Well, we'll say what is your if you could say give one pitch to these two dudes to like try and convince them to go to church. Maybe me. We're gonna add that.
You know, I'd say be open. Be as open,
I'm open.
about that. Like so.
Victor's
I'm
very open.
but-
I am open.
He just doesn't.
But how can you can't expect me to be engaged when I feel bored?
So you shouldn't
So
go
I
to
gotta
that
go to
church.
the right. You gotta find the right
That's
place.
what I'm saying. Like, so if you were like looking for a college, right, and you visited one college and you didn't like it, you don't say, "Well, that's it." Like,
Right.
I didn't like it. You know, I'm not going. You'd be like, "No, I'm going to keep looking at colleges."
We
till
shouldn't
I-"
generalize
certainly-
churches because we've had a
Yeah.
couple of bad
Yeah,
experiences.
so I'm
You know what we
saying
need?
put as much effort into it as you would put into other areas of
Dating,
your life.
you know.
Dating, yeah. Like you don't say like, yeah, I had a bad date. I'm never going to do it again. You
The
know.
Yeah, the benefits of this church is this. The benefits
Yeah.
of this church is that.
But like so often people are like, oh, I hate church. When's the last time you went? 10 years ago. You know, how many churches did you go to? Like one, you know.
Okay.
And it's like, wow, you wouldn't say that about something else, you know.
Right.
to say,
Yeah,
Elena,
I know.
I don't think you've sold them.
Yeah.
no,
church.
I'm not saying.
I know
I'm not
it's kind
going
of
to
like
church.
what I'm saying
I'm
is
just
like
saying-
it's gonna be horrible, but go to 10 and you might find one good.
No, I get it. She's just like keep an open mind. You can't just because you had a bad experience
Yeah.
someplace doesn't mean they're all
And
terrible.
put some effort into it. You
I was
know.
gonna
they
say
need-
you got to work at it,
They
like
do.
instruments,
They
like
Yelp
anything.
for
You got to
churches.
work at it.
Right.
There's gonna be
For
times where you
churches.
don't
Yeah,
want to
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's none
go to
like in our
church or do
community like
anything.
that.
But yeah, but I think, you know, especially when life hits you with some serious pain and agony, that's where having a religious tradition in place is helpful. And you don't want to be out looking at that moment. You know, it's like that. It's the sort of thing where you should put some work into it throughout your life as you would about being educated.
Think of it
about
as preventative care.
ideas. Yeah, you know, but you put some work into it. You don't sit back and say, oh, it's like
You
boring.
can't be
or, like-
complacent. You can't just go so you can
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I went to church." Check
But
that off
also,
the
like,
weekly
yeah, if you don't
checklist.
want to go, don't go, you know. But but don't say things about the church like, oh, it's all full of like hypocrites or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, if we're ever in Dubuque, Iowa, I'm sure.
So,
Yeah, what church are you? What church are you gonna be
First
working at?
Congregational, Dubuque, Iowa.
Okay, we'll come check you out for sure.
Oh, I would love that. We
That'd
could
be
do like
great.
a
Absolutely,
show there.
yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
We could do a
So
show
you're heading to
there.
Dubuque, Iowa, and your website is lilliandaniel.com. Are you on Twitter?
Mhm.
What's your Twitter handle?
Lillian F. Daniel.
Lillian F. Daniel.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I think that wraps things up. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts.
Yeah,
This was
thank-
really
Good.
fun.
Yeah,
Thank you
this
so
was
much.
entertaining.
All right,
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.